Greetings, 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 greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian owned, not to control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay to this episode. This is the Vault episode 627. Notification. Your estate is in a state of emergency. Definitely thankful for everybody that tunes in live, listens in a replay. Feel free to hit the notifications button 2 times so you can actually get the actual pop-ups, live notifications, so you can hear it, type into the chat. Really thankful for everybody once again that does take the time out when we're live to click when they see the notification, and as well for the people that go back and listen to the replay. So always appreciate you all. Just really wanted to share what this episode means. Notification: your state is in a state of emergency, and this is something that we actually see at higher levels, even at higher levels above the 10 million, 25 million mark. The state of making sure that the estate is in the right position definitely has consequences. There's a sense of urgency there. But then we also hear clientele that's under 25 million, which is a significant part of the population. And so they come on the line and they pity pat with it. They're taking time with their estate, as far as the estate plan, don't have a quality estate plan in place. And you think about that, ladies and gentlemen, when you're around estate people, whether it's lawyers or accountant, why aren't they really helping you make sure that your estate is in the correct position or a good position? And a lot of times it's not going to be in a great position because they're not that versed, they're not that educated on it. And people have to be okay with that, ladies and gentlemen. There's a difference between public and private. If you all are aware that most of the lawyers are in the public, then that's the information that most likely they're going to be pushing. So if it's truly in a state of emergency as far as it going into the private and going into the private indeed, then that means that it's a state of emergency. It needs to get done immediately. But from the sentiment that we've had throughout the years, there are many that come on the line and they want to make sure that they're in the correct position. But we can tell you all, just like you all are aware, there are many that don't know about their estate. And so putting it into a position that's going to be able to aid them in the future or just in general, even when they find out the information, is still not a state of an emergency mentality. But it is definitely a state of emergency because when you're engaging with other people, are you in the correct position? That's one. Most people aren't. So when we're talking to trustees and talking to them about the charities, talking to them about the foundation, talking to them about getting grants, the estate deals with the charity, deals with the foundation, deals with the grants. But is someone gonna move into those vehicles fast enough? Oh man, I don't know, Trust Christian Vote. I gotta learn it first. How are you gonna learn how to drive a particular vehicle if you don't get in the vehicle and practice? So what happens is we get two different types of trustees that come through the calls. They either do it DIYs or do it with. Say it's either DIYs, do it yourself, or it's do it with. The state of emergency is putting it back into a state of peace, into a state of harmony, where there's a smooth transition from one generation to the next. Most people that come on the line, one of their biggest concerns is the transition from the first gen to second gen. That's definitely a big concern. Oh man, what if my children are competent? We were asked that yesterday. What if my children, how do I deal with that? Well, we can do it where there is another quote unquote entity, lawyer, person. It could be law firm, it could be estate planner, it could be financial planner, it could be uh, what's that in it? Financial advisors. Many people you can have in place that can manage the estate for your children, ladies and gentlemen. Usually, some people may say, "Oh, I'll go to the bank. The bank's gonna manage the family estate, and they'll just make sure that the estate never goes below this number, and the bank will take their cut, and the family estate will make sure that the family members that are involved will be able to live harmoniously." The only thing is families grow, so the more families you have dependent upon your family wealth system, the challenging it's going to be. That's why when we sit there and talk to trustees or people inquiring about trustee training, they ask, Trust Christian involved. How do I train my children? How do I get my children involved? How do I do it non-invasively? How do I do it to where I'm not going to push them away? How do I do it to where they're going to enjoy this process? How do I do it in general? And then we give them best practices of wealthy families. Best practices hurt sometimes. Why? Because they're not the traditional best practices you may have thought you were going to employ at that level. But for sure, there are best practices. Notification: your estate is in a state of emergency. Think about how many people are not in the correct position. And if you're in that position, it's a state of emergency. Why? Because if something happens to you tomorrow, you already know what's going to happen. So this is usually where we'll get most of the trustees that will make their transition over into the train. It's because they stop living on the river of denial and they just say, you know what? He's right. They're right at the vault. If something happens to me today, it's not going to look close to what I want it to look like. It's not even close. Correct. So we're here to help you move that ball closer to that goal line, closer to that championship, closer to retirement. We were sitting on the line yesterday. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. How do you own the business and you not think about retirement? Ladies and gentlemen, professional athletes retire, politicians retire. Retirement is nothing wrong with retirement. We were sitting here, a lot of the millennials say, oh man, I don't want to retire. You hear a lot of older people say, oh, I don't want to retire because you can't afford it. Who wants to work for money? The family estate is about making sure that family members are living out their goals, their dreams, and not feeling like they got to be a slave to the money. It's a state of emergency. Are you a slave to the money or is the money a slave to you? Well, mentally it's a slave to me. You're right. Very much so. It's time to make sure that we can become truly investors then in the family estate. Because the family estate is supposed to outlive us. The family estate is supposed to be able to live out in perpetuity. That means live without us, live beyond us. That means we got more than enough. We were talking to someone the other day about that. How are you not in a state of emergency and you're in debt? If you're in debt, you're in a state of emergency. Unfortunately, most people do have that mindset of it's an emergency or it's negative instead of just thinking, oh wow, I'm positive, I'm getting money to get that I need, and I'm doing the things I gotta do. And this is something that we learn from our mentors is that if you don't think that it's a state of an emergency, are you thinking it's a state of abundance? Are you thinking at the level that you want? Are you thinking about the level that you want? That's what it comes down to. Is it a fire one? Is it a 911 fire hose to get the job done right now? Or is it, we'll take our time? Your estate is in a state of emergency if it's not in the correct position, if it doesn't have a successor, it's in a state of emergency. You know how many trustees come to us? Oh man, I'm the only trustee. Think about that. They're the only trustee. We'll say it again. I'm the only trustee. Okay, who's your successor? Do you have a succession plan in place? That's what a lot of trustees come on the line and ask us about honestly. They say it in so many words and indirect ways, but it's for sure. Oh man, I gotta find out how to put a succession plan in place because my lawyer didn't help me do that yet. Exactly. But they got you in trust though. That's what they'll tell us. My lawyer got me in a trust, but I don't have a succession plan in place. I don't even still know why I need that over a will. That's what they say to us, ladies and gentlemen. Your estate is in a state of emergency because there's no plan. We aid with that at the Vault. Trust Christian in the Vault. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. And that is the email to reach out to for consultations and trustee training. So you want a notification, hit the notifications hit the bell 2 times on the screen. Your estate is in a state of emergency. That's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. And until it's whole again, when we say whole, it really is. What does an estate that's not in an emergency look like? It's not in debt. It's not thinking about that. It's thinking about more than enough. So if it doesn't have more than enough, it's in a state of emergency. State of emergency means it's going to be left with a liability. It needs to give it away. That's what. State of emergency Your estate is in a state of emergency because you don't have competent players around you. Now, if you have competent team players around you, then that's beautiful. Then that's excellent. Then that's the best way to be, and always increasing those team players and finding team players to replace you. See, when usually people have team players, they understand delegation and they understand leadership, and as once again, they can also delegate out that responsibility to someone else to actually get something done. Your estate is in a state of emergency because it's only you and trusteeship for the family estate, when it should be more than that. We're not saying that it has to uh, it has to have a whole bunch of team players in it, but it definitely needs to have team players in it. So we're really thankful and shout out to all the families right now that have come through trustee training and their families. We appreciate them greatly. They're awesome. They're definitely making it happen. Many first and second and third generation families are sitting on the line. It's beautiful. And when you see that you have multiple generations in the same room, we used to have people come to us all the time and say, "Oh man, I can't get my family in the same room." What y'all want us to do? Y'all want us to bring out the families and say, "Okay, grandma, okay, son, and okay, children." Like we have three generations sitting right there, and so how does that happen? You just have someone step up in the family. You step up in the family. You go to work. You go to work on the homework. You do your best to study up to where you can convey the information to your family. And in turn, the ones that have a need, you just gradually pull them in. We're dealing with families right now where the initial member that contacted us was just thinking about one of them. They're an employee. There's nothing wrong with it. It is what it is. High paid employee, sure. High paid employees reach out to us. High paid employee but also has family that have businesses. And in turn, we're consulting the entire family, multiple generations, because we need to work with multiple generations in that lineage to understand trusteeship and as well foundationship. So once again, it used to be in a state of emergency when they were fragmented. It's still in a state of emergency right now. Why? It's in a state of emergency until you have enough money that's rolling in passively to where you don't have to work. Oh, Trust Christian, where were you going with that whole retirement rate rant? Exactly. Think about it. If you're a trust fund baby, you don't work a job. You don't work for someone else. But people want to sit out here and play with it and say, "Oh, Trust Christian, I'm gonna get in trust," but it's still not a state of emergency because they're working for other people. It's not a state of emergency because they don't have more money coming in that gives them the option to say, if I want to work for someone else's family last name, I will. If not, I'll be making sure that I live off of our family estate and our family last name. It's challenging to program that into people because they come from very fragmented environments. They don't come from a lot of hierarchy. They don't come from a lot of aristocracy. They don't come from an oligarchy. They don't come from levels of meeting and rigor. So how do you put your estate back in place? We got to build a team. We got to acquire the knowledge. That was something we were talking about today. Think about it. You know how many people we get on the line that are completely arrogant? Like it's just this is where we are, and we can call it out. Like someone can say, "Oh, Trust Christian, if you call it out, you must be." Not at all. First of all, we're sitting around billionaires, so we're not arrogant at the vault. We sit around billionaires. We sat around people this past week that have raised over quarter of a billion dollars. We connected with someone this past week that is managing a $300 million company. We're not arrogant at the vault. We reach out to people. We ask them for meetings. Whether you all know it or not, a lot of successful people will have meetings with you if you email them or if you call them. But most people don't have the confidence to reach out to these people. Why? Because they're afraid of the questions that they got to come up with. You got to come up with some questions to ask a person that's managing a $300 million company. What do you ask them? The family estate is in a state of emergency because they don't have an emergency fund to take care of family members in hard times. They don't have a family property that's in the family foundation that can make sure that if someone ever hits hard times in the family, they should be able to go to the family estate property and get themselves together. It's that simple. That is what the environment, when people say, "Oh, I'm looking to be wealthy." Wealthy people have properties that if someone hits hard times, they can go stay at the estate. That's why it's in the state. It has a system in place for families' misgivings or mistakes or inadequacies or foibles. The state makes up for their weaknesses. Truly, if you all knew how powerful what you were building when you put together the family estate in a proper system, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, or children in general, or multiple generations, they're going to benefit when their weaknesses are weak from the family estate that was started multiple generations ago. They're going to depend on your strengths. 2 and 3 generations later, the system that you put in place, 2 and 3 generations later. How is it not in a state of emergency if you don't have a system that can aid your grandchildren and aid your great grandchildren? People think they smart. If you so smart, can you predict the future out 25, 50, 100 years? What you think the landscape of technology is going to look like? What you think the landscape of real estate is going to look like? What you think the landscape of business is going to look like? What you think the landscape of relationships in certain jurisdictions are going to look like? Can you predict it out? So you can be in a state of harmony and equilibrium as we go through these cycles. Oh man, there's only going to be one Great Depression in human history, Trust Christian. I don't think so. That's not true. There's been multiple depressed markets. And what makes people think that the market can't get depressed? See, that's the thing. People think, oh, Trust Christian, you think the market just going to go up forever. You're Pollyannish. You think the American market is the best market ever and it's never going to go down. We're not saying that. We're in the roaring 20s right now. We're not saying that. We know that the population demographics are going to change. They're changing right now. So that changes the economy and how people spend money and how people allocate capital towards different things. Think about this. They say, oh, trust Christian and vote. AI is going to take over. Now, y'all think about this. Now everybody's not going to catch this. Unfortunately, if AI is taking white collar jobs, what do you think is going to happen when they can get a robot to deliver people's food to people's door? It's going to take more blue collar jobs. Oh, we're going to get a AI mechanic now. Oh no, don't tell me that, Trust Christian vote. I need a real human to work on my car. No, you don't. And you know you don't. And you know that there are probably robots working on your car right now. So you already know that, oh man, it's not going to be necessary at one point to have humans work on cars and work on various different things, even mechanical things. They're going to cut a few jobs here and there. They cutting white collar jobs. By 2030, oh, Trust Christian, we can't think out 2, 3, 4 generations. Let's think out the next 6 years. The next 6 years. Oh, everybody said Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. We've been hearing about Bitcoin for, what, I guess more now than what, 10 years? We've been hearing about Bitcoin for 10 years. What you think you're going to hear about AI? You're going to hear about AI for 10 years, 20 years. Bitcoin is actually, what? We can go look at Bitcoin right now. No one's mad at the price of Bitcoin. We can go look at Bitcoin and say the facts. The facts are that the coin is probably at all-time highs again. Yeah. Is it not at all-time highs? It's at all-time highs. What do you think AI is going to be? All-time highs. It's going to just take over. Not take over, but it'll have a lot more place in society. Think about it. Bitcoin has taken people's money and converted it into the fractionalized coin. So it's taking money out of the economy. You think AI is not going to take money out of regular humans' hands and put it into tech companies' hands? Your state is in a state of emergency because we've just been introduced to the savage business environment now that America or many other business places can have, which is, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. If someone owns a business and they can go get a computer or a piece of technology that can cut their cost and eliminate a human's job, they will. We are in that era of business in the world. For that reason, what business are you telling your children? What business are you telling yourself to go into over the next 20 years? Not 30, not 50. We're not going out 2050. Let's just do 20. But we can cut it out to 10. Then we can cut it down to 6. In the next 6 years, we're going to see more massive growth as the years go on. We're seeing the explosion of people lose their jobs. It's just crazy to know people have this job mentality. It's okay to keep going into a job instead of pouring their life into their family estate. Think about your mentality if you don't pour your life into your family estate. If you do not wake up every single day and say, I'm pouring my life into growing one, two, three generation thought process out. So when those people are here, they can say, wow, someone thought about me. Someone thought about me 4 generations ago. Someone thought about me 5 generations ago. How is the estate not in a state of emergency when people tell, "Oh, yo, I'm looking to be wealthy. I'm focused on generational wealth." If you're focused on generational wealth, the estate is in a state of emergency until you're not having to build it anymore. Because that's active management. Emergency status. Emergency status is to get it to where it can sustain itself, get it out of the red and into the black. The family estate is in a state of emergency if they are in debt on family properties. What's wrong with saying this? But then we get on the line with an entrepreneur the other day says, "Oh yeah, I want to pay off my entire real estate portfolio, want to have a straight clean portfolio." But see, we can tell just by making that statement, even if they really knew what they needed to know. Think about it. Robert Kiyosaki even says debt is good. There's good debt and bad debt. But see, they're not focused on debt. They focused on equity, so we have to hear them out. Because that particular investor was focused on equity. I just want to have control over all the equity. Yeah, but then you have no leverage now. You lost all your leverage. You only can. It's like compound interest. You can only use it when your money's sitting still. Your money has to sit still in order for it to compound. It's the same thing with what we just said. The estate. You want to take advantage of compound interest? It's got to sit still. The family estate has to grow. It can't be having leaks in it. You can operate from a position of power. You can operate from a position of advantage. People say, "Oh, you got to be your own bank." We're really proud of some trustees that are going through the program actually right now. We got this one young trustee actually has under 25, under 26, and actually has their hands on some property and multiple properties at that, and just really excited to see them having to step up to the plate, be the trustee for the family estate, even if mom and dad aren't active overall. But at the end of the day, they're putting things in place, looking to create leverage off of assets. Think about the mentality. Their estate is not going to be in a state of emergency forever. Why? Because they're thinking about putting the money to work. They're thinking about leveraging assets, not thinking about being a slave to the asset. Oh, I'm a slave to the mortgage. Oh, I'm a slave to the house. Right. And then you got young bucks like, "Oh man, I bought some land trust, Christian. I could build a house on it. I bought it for 6 grand, but I could build a house on it. How do I do that?" That's the conversations we're excited about having. That's how you know they're not in a state of emergency. They're actually in an active abundance, progressive growth mentality, a victory mentality, a growth mentality. "Hey, Trust Christian, I got properties. How do I take these properties and securitize them and collateralize them?" That's what they be asking on the line. Less than 25 years old. So some of the old heads, "Oh man, Trust Christian, I wish I would have got the information sooner." Yeah, and you're competing against these young bucks that are actually acquiring land, and they're doing what the old heads could do. But instead, people, they spending money on entertainment. They spending money on entertainment. Their estate is not about generational wealth. It's about entertainment right now. That's when the family estate is in your estate is in the state of emergency. When entertainment is not being paid for by the family estate passively. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody tuning in live, listen, replay. Feel free to type into the chat where you're listening live, listening in front of replay from. Definitely thank everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. This is definitely something that really excited to really go over this with people, because a lot of people don't know. It's like, okay, first of all, if why do you have to work 30 years to retire, first of all. That's how you know you're not challenging conventional wisdom. But ladies and gentlemen, they've been questioning Social Security for the past 10, 15, 20 years on the solvency of it. And they've questioned for years, can you afford to live your life just with Social Security alone? With a little bit of investments. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are you going to depend on Social Security? We were talking to someone the other day that's over 43 years old. They said, oh man, I always knew I was never going to get Social Security. They're less than 50. How is it not a state of emergency? You're working a job, you're putting money into something, and you sitting here saying, oh man, under 50, oh man, hey, I might not get no money when that come around for me. Really? That's Americans' sentiment. We talk to Americans. That's the American sentiment. Under 50, oh man, I might not collect Social Security. It's a state of emergency then. The fund's in a state of emergency. The mentality is supposed to be in a state of emergency. You would think that Americans will be in a state of emergency saying every year, well, the country's going in trillions of dollars worth of debt. But y'all not stopped spending money yet. See, when you get these commentators that come on and say, oh, the country's going to go under, there's going to be a crisis and this, that, and the third, they're only saying it because they're looking at the facts. The facts are people are swimming in debt. Really? You think you would drown in it, right? They're not. They're swimming in it. The country's been swimming in debt for a long time. Fine. But guess what? There are also people that are sitting at the table and they're not in debt. Everybody's not in debt. The state of emergency is for the ones that's in debt. But it's not. Because they trying to get student loan relief. The white collar workers, the ones that are going to get laid off. What's this? Actually, one of the top 5 major accounting firms, KPMG. We're not shouting them out. We're not giving them any praise right now. We saw their name in the past 2 weeks. In the month of October and November, they literally are laying people off right now. This is an accounting firm. This is one of the top 5 accounting firms. They are nowhere near going out of business. But guess what? We were sitting at the table with the individual that raised over $300 million in revenue every year right now. This is not raising money. They're revenuing it. Over $300 million. We sat there and talked to him. We were joking with him at this point in the conversation because they were talking about scaling the company. Everybody talks about scaling, which is growing. We asked him, here you go. Y'all ready for the punchline? When you get to a certain level, we're like, all right, you said scale, but what does that mean at the level you talking about it? They were talking about cutting head count. You hear it? Cutting head count. Cutting employees. KPMG. Oh, son. Oh, daughter. You're going to go to a top 5 school and go to a college in America. And then you're going to go work for PwC. Oh, you're going to go work for KPMG. But AI is slowly creeping in, just looking to take your job because you're not going to be able to do all the work AI can do for businesses and impersonal people. You hear that? You're competing with AI now. We're not competing with Chinese. We're not just competing with Indians. We're not just competing with Russians. We're competing. What they say, it's a global economy. Trust Christian in the vault. No, it's not. It's an artificial economy now. The numbers are going to be skewed. Think about it. Every president is supposed to keep the job numbers high. You're not going to keep job numbers high when KPMG is actively laying people off because of technology. What are we talking about here? So this is we're going to see this over the next few election cycles. They're going to try to bolster, well, we can boost the economy and keep jobs. Isn't that what they always say? We're getting job growth. Job growth in what? They're going to have robots building the robots. They're going to have robots repairing the robots. Let's think, people. 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out. They got robots building cars. We posted on social media one time. Why do you think certain cities like Chicago and Detroit, not Chicago, but Detroit have changed? They've stopped building cars there as far as humans. They got car plants there, and guess what? They're AI that is building those cars now. Robots are building the cars. What else do you think AI and technology is going to help become more efficient and automate? Y'all wish, ladies and gentlemen, trust Christian involved. Y'all don't even know. Here's the wealthy mentality, and here's the poor man mentality. Wealthy people mentality say, you know what? It's nothing we can do about it. You see people like their cell phones, they're addicted to it, and they don't really want to work, supposedly. And technology, we might as well just invest in this AI stuff because it can replace people too. So we don't have to deal with their personalities. We don't have to deal with their family issues, them showing up late to work. That sounds like McDonald's. Ladies and gentlemen, we've already seen it. In the past 5 years, some of y'all have already seen it. McDonald's fully automated. Not fully, but automated. You walk in, you hit the screen, pop, pop, pop. You touch the burger, you touch the drink, you touch the fries, it slides down. Someone hands it to you, you walk out. The pandemic proved that AI will be a push in the businesses. Fast food. Oh man, remember when you were a kid? Oh, go work in fast food. $14 an hour, $10 an hour. Go work in fast food. That's your entry level job. Go work at the grocery store. Entry level job. Entry level jobs. AI. Wealthy people are thinking, might as well just use the AI. Poor people, trust Christian Evolve. I feel bad for all the people that's going to lose their job. This is what poor people say. I feel bad for all the people that's going to lose their job. Nah, what you should be thinking is how to employ them and find a way to help them make some money or figure out how to grow a business, because otherwise the poor people are just going to get wiped out. It's the haves and the have-nots. This is the great divide that's happening. And it's crazy because we're seeing it and the AI did it. It wasn't even humans just being competitive. Humans aren't competing against humans anymore. You're competing against robots. What are your gifts? What are your talents? Most people are probably doing something they don't even want to do. We sit on the line with them every day, ladies and gentlemen, consultation. Trust Christian, man, I'm doing something I don't really want to do. Reach out for Trust Christian Vote. We'll do a consultation. We'll do a reading on you. We'll make sure you get some information so you can start finding some businesses, some passions. We'll do a goal setting session going into the new year. 1 hour session could change your life, could be more valuable than you ever needed. Setting up a quality goal setting session based off your reason for being going into the new year or just moving forward. Why? It's got to be a test of time now. The time is ticking. It's a state of emergency for people's estate. Think about it. If you didn't even have an estate that's set up that's giving passive income to where you can live off of it, it's an emergency. Oh no, Trust Christian Vault, don't say it like that. I'm comfortable. Everybody else around me is living like that. There you go. Appreciate everybody for tuning live, listen, replay, staying on the episode this long. Ladies and gentlemen, we did some people come to us, they say, Trust Christian Vault, we appreciate the motivation. Think about it. How many of the young people listening, their mom and dad aren't in it, involved in trusteeship, but you know you are. It's a state of emergency because your parents already gave up based off of neglect. Once you shared the information with them, once you shared it with your friends and family, if they don't see the purpose of getting it together, then you already know it's a state of emergency. Dang, man, who else is going to get in here with me? You got to get association now with the right people. We'll do that on another episode. Christian at trustchristian.com for trustee training, goal setting, trusteeship, formalizing trusteeship. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com